Okay, let's go.
You ever feel stuck? Like you're just replaying the same problems over and over again in your head? Well, it turns out that where you put your focus isn't just some small choice. It's pretty much the thing that determines your entire direction in life. What we're about to get into is a really simple but honestly profound shift that can totally alter your path forward. And this quote, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? The idea here is that your attention is like fuel. If you pour all of that fuel onto the problem, guess what? The problem gets bigger. But the second you start redirecting that same fuel towards potential solutions, you're not just changing your mindset, you're actually starting to build some real momentum. So you can really see this as two completely different paths. On one side, you have the problem focus. It's totally passive, right? It's all about complaining, blaming other people, and just waiting for something to happen. But the solution focus, that's active. It's about creating, owning your piece of it, and most importantly, acting. So we're going to explore exactly how to choose that path on the right consistently. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 4 parts. First, we'll lay the foundation, which is all about taking radical ownership. Then we'll get into the practice of how to train your attention like it's a muscle. After that, we'll talk about taking action, especially when you feel like you're not ready. And to wrap it all up, we'll leave you with one incredibly powerful question that just cuts through all the noise. So let's dive right into that foundation, radical ownership. The source material is super clear on this. Without this first step, nothing else works. Any attempt to find a solution is just going to fall flat. This is the absolute bedrock of getting unstuck. And this is such a huge distinction to make. Responsibility is not about fault. It has nothing to do with what happened yesterday. It's just a simple declaration that, from this moment on, you are the one who's empowered to deal with this situation. That little shift in perspective, that's what unlocks everything. I mean, this just says it all. You have a choice. Every single ounce of energy you spend describing the problem, complaining about it, is energy you can't use to actually build a solution. One of those paths keeps you stuck in the past, and the other one starts paving the road ahead. And here's where the rubber meets the road. This is how that choice actually plays out in real life. You go from being a puppet of your circumstances to the driver. You stop asking, why me, and you start asking, okay, what now? You stop waiting for someone else to come save you, and you start owning your own effort, starting today. All right, so once we've got that ownership piece locked down, we can move on to the mental practice. This next part is all about treating your attention like a muscle, something that you can actually train and strengthen. Because, as the source points out, where your focus goes, your future is absolutely going to follow. Oh man, we all know this feeling, right? That mental hamster wheel, just replaying a mistake or a worry over and over and over. That's circular thinking. And the tricky thing is, it kind of feels like you're problem solving, but you're not. In reality, it's just draining all your energy without moving you forward even an inch. So how do you actually break that loop? Well, the source gives us a really practical 4-step process. First, just acknowledge it. Notice the thought is repeating. Second, ask yourself a simple question. Is there anything new here? If the answer is no, it's time for step 3, interrupt. Physically get up, move your body, take a deep breath. And finally, step 4, redirect your focus to one small useful action you can take right now. Okay, on to our third section. This is where we bridge that gap between all the mental work and getting real-world results. This is all about the incredible power of taking action, especially when you really don't feel prepared or confident at all. Now, this is a really critical insight. Hesitation is basically fear's favorite food. The longer we wait, the more we delay, the more our imagination just runs wild, turning little puddles into giant sea monsters. The more you think without acting, the bigger and more impossible the problem starts to feel. Delay just breeds dread. So, what's the antidote to that growing fear? It's this question. Just forget about solving the whole giant problem. The goal here is to find the absolute smallest unit of progress you can possibly make, right now. What's one tiny little thing you can do to just get the ball rolling? And this just completely flips our whole idea of courage on its head. We tend to think we need to feel brave before we can act, but the argument here is that it's the total opposite. Courage isn't the starting gun, it's the feeling you get after you've already done the hard thing. It shows up as a result of the action. So you see, these two paths lead to totally different places. Hesitation, it just builds more fear, it creates all these negative stories in your head, and it totally drains your energy. But action does the exact opposite. It builds momentum, it gives you real-world feedback to work with, and it creates the very confidence you were waiting for in the first place.
And that brings us to our final section. This is the big takeaway tool, the thing that pulls everything we've talked about together. It's a single question you can use to cut through the noise and find clarity in, well, pretty much any situation.
So just imagine this. You're in the middle of your day, and you feel that familiar sensation, like you're just stuck in the mud.
Or maybe it's not being stuck. Maybe it's just being completely overwhelmed, buried under the weight of everything you have to do.
Or you're just plain confused, you know? You're staring at a fork in the road and you have no idea which way to turn. In any of those moments, the goal is to just stop, take a breath, and ask yourself one simple question.
What would actually help right now? It sounds so simple, right? But it's incredibly powerful. It's not asking what would feel good or what's easy. It's asking what is genuinely useful. This question just slices right through all that emotional noise and forces you to think about practical, forward-moving action. It's the shift from being a victim to being a strategist.
And that's really what it all comes down to. Taking ownership, training your focus, and acting before you're ready. It all funnels down to being able to ask this one question. This is the tool that transitions you from being a passive victim tossed around in a storm to being the active captain of your own ship. So I'll just leave you with that. What would actually help you right now?